15 years later, the case remained unsolved. In 2001, the LAPD formed a 6-member dedicated cold case unit. "Our emphasis was on DNA cases," said retired LAPD detective Cliff Shepard. "DNA was new to us. We were learning what to do with it. Bite marks are rich sources of DNA, so Rasmussen's homicide was reopened. The bite mark that had been swabbed and collected as evidence was tested for DNA. The analysis showed that the bite was made by a woman," said Shepard. "There was no match for the swabbed DNA in Cody's, the combined DNA index system." Shepard reconsidered the idea about the duo in the suspected burglary gone bad. Were they a contemporary Bonnie and Clyde, applying that theory to burglary teams made up of a man and a woman active in 1986 didn't yield immediate results. At this point, the cold case unit was assigned to work with a task force to track down the grim sleeper serial killer terrorizing Los Angeles. Rasmussen's case was shelved. "I thought that the crime would never be solved," said Rasmussen's sister Teresa Lane. Then in 2009, LA homicides were down and Rasmussen's case was reopened. Investigators questioned the burglary gone bad theory. One reason was because Rasmussen's condo was in the middle of the complex. Most robbers target homes on the outer edge. Except for the car, no valuables were touched. All of this together suggested that this was actually an interpersonal crime that someone tried to cover up as a staged burglary, said Safarik. Investigators focused on women in Rasmussen's life. Her mother and sisters gave DNA samples and were eliminated as suspects. There was also John Rutan's ex-girlfriend that he had told them about right after the murder, said Presby. 23 years after Rasmussen's murder, investigators spoke to Rutan again, who had remarried. In the follow-up interview, he told detectives that he was never in love with the ex-girlfriend from college, but believed she was in love with him. When the ex learned that he was engaged to Rasmussen, she had asked to see him and expressed her feelings. She said, "Can we be intimate one more time?" said Presby. They had sex, added Presby, but it changed nothing. Rutan then revealed to investigators that the woman, Stephanie Lazarus, was a veteran LAPD detective. When the crime took place in 1986, Lazarus was a patrol officer. During her career, she rose through the ranks. In 2009, Lazarus was one of 2 LAPD detectives that were focused on high-end art. Detectives knew they needed to quietly gather evidence before accusing the respected cop of murder. They covertly tailed her to Costco, where she drank a soda. When she tossed her cup in the trash, an officer collected the cup for DNA evidence. DNA on Lazarus' cup matched the bite mark on Rasmussen's arm. Investigators then learned that shortly after the homicide, Lazarus had reported that her backup firearm, a .38 caliber revolver, had been stolen. It was the same type of weapon used to shoot Rasmussen. Detectives reached out to Lazarus. They said they were working on an art theft case and needed her expertise. She obliged, and they seized the moment to question her about Rasmussen's murder. According to Presby, you could see her thinking, "What do I say to get out of this interview?" Lazarus was arrested for Rasmussen's murder. Her trial began in 2012 in Los Angeles County Superior Court. Prosecutors presented a classic motive, the scorned woman who struck back, according to the real murders of Los Angeles. Journal entries made by Lazarus about Rutan that had been collected as evidence bolstered the theory. Prosecutors argued that Rasmussen allowed Lazarus into her home and a fight broke out. They believe Lazarus bit the victim during a battle for the gun. After deliberating for 8 hours, the jury returned with a guilty verdict. On March 8, 2012, Lazarus was sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. She is eligible for parole in November of 2023.